Hello YouTube, and welcome to today's video, which is it's a sort of a celebration really. Today's the first day I've noticed I have over 3,000 views on my most popular video, which is something I made about 7 months ago just as a test of an idea really. And it's a standard flight from Plymouth in the UK to Jersey in the Channel Islands, and in that video I just tried to show how you could use the autopilot in standard FSX to move from one airport to another. I had no idea that it would become as popular as it has done. I say popular, 3,000 views in 7 months for some of the well-known names on YouTube in the flight sim world is nothing. They're able to get that many views in maybe a week or even less. Nevertheless, for me it's a significant change. It's a significant increase in viewer numbers, and so I wanted to celebrate that a little, I suppose, by doing a similar flight today. Unfortunately, Plymouth Airport is no longer in use. In fact, it was closed down some years ago to much local uproar, which continues to this day. So I can't really do a flight from Plymouth down to Jersey. I'd like to do one from Exeter, but I'm still waiting for the UK 2000 guys to finish their Exeter scenery. And as for the airports that I'll be flying to today, again I don't have scenery for Jersey, so I'm going to go to Guernsey instead, which is another of the Channel Islands, and one for which I also have some additional scenery, which will make the flight, I think, just that little bit more aesthetically pleasing. So here we are in our Aerosoft Airbus A319. So we're cold and dark. Let's do our normal startup procedure. On with the batteries, on with the external power, fire up the APU, turn on the nav lights and turn on the ADIRS. With those done, down to the front, and let's turn on the lights or the lighting for the PFD and the navigation display and the weather and terrain display behind that. Turn on the ECAMs, and with those done, let's go fire up some work on the First Officer's MCDU. I do want to enable the checklist and the co-pilot. And as well as that, I want to go to the fuel page and enter in the data for that. So I have 120 passengers on board today. The cargo, quite small, only 715 kilos, so 0.72 I think would be the closest rounding up. Fuel today I need, let's see, 3,874 kilos, so 3.87. Put us in the right area. They're good to go. My cargo light is not available to me at the moment, and that's because I haven't opened the doors for the cargo, which I'll do now. So front cargo and aft cargo are now opened. Back to the load and fuel, and I can start loading cargo as well. With that done, let's go enter in the flight plan. So on the unit page I'm going from Echo Golf Golf Delta, which is Bristol, to Echo Golf Juliet Bravo, which is Guernsey, and flight plan 01. Enter my company route. The alternate will be Echo Golf Juliet Juliet, which is Jersey. For the flight number today, I'm using the Aerosoft colour scheme on the 319 today, so we'll use AER and 123. I don't suppose it makes any difference at all which flight number you enter, and I don't know why I spend so much time thinking about it and entering it. I guess it's equally as good simply to ignore it. Okay, with those details entered, let's put in the block number for the fuel, and for this I think I'll enter 3.9. Okay, and for the performance page I'm going to enter in flap settings of 2. We'll have to use full Mantoga today because the runway at Bristol is fairly short. We won't be given the option for any flex settings. And 0.0. Oh, didn't like that. Okay, let's try that again. 2/up 0.0. Try again. There we are. That's better. Transition altitude's already entered. I don't need to do that. Let's go back to the flight plan page. And for my departure, we'll be taking off from runway 27, which has already been entered, and we're using the XMO 1X standard instrument departure. And then for the arrival, we are landing at runway 27, the ILS, and we're using the GUR 2H standard arrival to help us do that. The VIAs are available via GUR or no VIA. We don't need either, so I'm just going to enter in what I already have, and that seems fairly good. Let's make sure that we have no discontinuities that I need to clear. Okay, one discontinuity between our last waypoint and the start of our approach. Okay, with that entered, let's do our final bit of cockpit preparation. And for this I want to make sure that the LS is off. We're on arc, a range of 10, which is all correct. I want to set the altitude to 1000 feet and push it up to 23. And I'll push that in, hand it into managed mode to the Airbus, and the same for the speed and the same for the heading. And with those done, I need to check now if everything has been loaded. We're still boarding passengers. Once the last passenger's on board, I can close the door and we can get underway. We've only got 85 on board at the moment and we're expecting 120. While they're loading, I will follow the advice up here and start the checklist by keying 1. I've had a couple of questions incidentally about this green number that appears here at the top left of the screen on my videos. This is a feature of the recording software I'm using at the moment, which I think is called Shadowplay. It's produced by NVIDIA, the creators of the video card on my machine. It promises to be a great thing because it uses the graphics cards to do the processing for capturing what's on screen. Meaning that the entire of the CPU is available to FSX, which, as we all know, is a very greedy FSX beast when it comes down to it, and grabs all the CPU power that it can. Okay, so we're all done with that. Let's go and close the doors. And with those done, we should get an announcement from the cabin crew that we're all closed up and ready to go.
Captain, the cabin is secure. All passengers are aboard.
Excellent.
Before start checklist.
Windows and doors.
Closed and locked.
APU.
APU on.
APU bleed.
Set on.
External power.
Disconnected and off.
Cabin signs.
Set on.
Thrust levers.
Idle.
Parking brake.
Set on.
Bearer reference.
Set 987.
987. Check. Beacon lights.
Set on.
Checklist complete.
That's some low pressure we've got there in our weather system at the moment, and the forecasters are forecasting that we've got some pretty cold but clear weather coming in for the next few days. and I guess that low pressure is an indicator that that front is well on its way. Okay, for the start today I'm going to cheat a little bit because there's not much space behind me on the stand that I'm at here, so I'm simply going to move ahead and then away to the right to join the main taxiway to go down to runway 27. So this time, rather than selecting option 1 with pushback, I'm going to select 2 without pushback.
Flight deck to ground.
Go ahead, sir.
Ground, we have ATC clearance for start and taxi now. Please confirm ground equipment and services are clear.
Roger. You're off from the trucks today, Captain, so your ground equipment and stairs are clear and all doors are closed. Ready when you are.
Okay.
Starting engine 2.
While engine 2 starting, I'm going to tune in my radio to the ATIS for my destination airport, and I'm going to do that using the standard Active Sky Next frequency of 122.025. As long as I've created my flight plan or put a rudimentary flight plan into Active Sky Next, then I can query it at any time to find the weather at my destination. So I've got it keyed in, ready to go, and I can turn that over any time. You may have noticed that my left joystick activated there. This is a common problem that I'm finding with FSX, and it's true no matter whether I'm using my Cytec X52 joystick, which I have at the moment,
Engine 2 is stabilized.
or indeed before
Starting
when I was using a different Cytec joystick. So I don't know if this is a feature of Windows 8.1 and the sleeping joystick problem, or some other thing that's going on my PC. I'd be interested in knowing if you're using Windows 8.1 and or have joystick problems, about what they are and have you been able to resolve them and so forth.
Engine 1 is stabilized. That's a good start on both engines. All systems are normal. Thanks for your help and all clear. We'll see you for the signal on the right, please.
Roger, 2 good starts, all clear signals. See you on the right.
After start checklist.
engine mode selector.
Set.
APU bleed.
Set off.
APU master.
Set off.
Ground spoilers.
Set.
Rudder trim.
Checked 0.
Pitch trim.
Checked.
Flight controls.
Full left. Full right. Neutral. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Rudder. Full left. Full right. Neutral.
Check. Flaps.
Flaps 2.
Anti-ice.
Off.
ECAM status.
Checked.
ECAM door page.
Checked.
Hand signal.
Received.
Checklist complete.
Okay, let's go. I'm just going to release the brake, and that should be enough to give us the forward motion to start taxiing. And there we go.
Taxiing checklist.
No flight.
Set on.
Brake check.
Pedal pressed. Checked 0.
Check. Auto brakes.
Max.
Takeoff data.
Reviewed.
FCU.
Checked.
Flight instruments.
Checked.
Checked. TO config.
Set.
Checklist complete.
Flight attendant, seats for takeoff. Before takeoff checklist.
Brake temperature.
Checked.
Brake fans.
Off.
Engine mode selector.
Checked normal.
TCAS.
TARA, tilt above.
Exterior lights.
Set on.
Sliding tables.
Stowed.
Stowed. Checklist complete.
I'm still having to grip furiously at the edge of my table as I try and steer the aircraft onto the correct heading here on the runway. Okay, it doesn't look too bad. Spool the engines up to about 50%. Make sure that's all looking good, which it is, and then let's go fully forward to Mantoga.
Takeoff. Mantoga, SRS and runway.
Check. Power set. Speed 1. Rotate.
My line on the runway at least is getting better these days.
Positive climb.
Gear up.
Gear up.
Navigation.
Check. Gears up, lights off.
Flaps 1.
Speed check, flaps 1.
Climb thrust. Autopilot on.
So one of the issues I've discovered with the EGGD Bristol scenery from UK 2000 is that it seems to be in a permanent state of spring stroke summer stroke autumn, with the consequence that when we're in the winter phase here in the UK and the scenery likes to throw snow onto the ground, Bristol Airport itself looks out of place compared to the local conditions and weather. But because I'm flying with active sky next, real live weather, I thought it was just appropriate to fly at today at the real time. So we really are at 10:04 here in the UK on the 29th of January 2015.
987. Checked. Checklist complete.
So that's our takeoff nicely dealt with, and we're on our XMO 1X departure, heading out across the Bristol Channel now to the North Devon coastline.
Cross check.
Check.
Main road we can see down there is, I think, the M5 motorway, and I recall when I was doing some of my PPL flight training, one of my instructors proudly informing me that he had an IFM navigation qualification, which caused me some interest at the time because I couldn't figure out what on earth he was talking about. And later on he put me out my misery and told me that IFM meant I follow motorways. And for the route that we're taking today, we could actually follow the M5 motorway all the way down to South Devon before going on to the Dorley VOR and then continuing with the rest of our flight. But of course we've spent a lot of money on PFPX and flight planners and keeping air traffic controllers in paid employment by designing corridors and putting danger areas sprouting all over the country so that we have to carefully navigate around them. And for all those reasons, of course, then we have to use the routes that's been presented to us by our flight planning software. Away to the north there is the coastline of South Wales. Let's move across into the first officer's seat. A better view, hidden under a blanket of snow, none of which we actually have here in the UK today. So I guess that's another anomaly of FSX, that because it's winter they put snow on the ground irrespective of what the weather conditions are actually indicating, which on the face of it seems a little strange. Should be able to read the weather and deal with the scenery accordingly, I suppose, but there we are, that's what we have. We can make out a runway down there, which I imagine must be either Cardiff or Royal Air Force St Athan, which is a huge runway at an RAF base there in the south of Wales. And here down to the south, North Devon and beyond, actually you can just make out the sea. So we'll be crossing this peninsula across the entire of Devon before heading down to the Channel Islands, which, although part of the UK, are closer to France than they are to the UK. So we've got a slight headwind here coming from the front right of our current position, as I can see here on our navigation display. As we turn over Exmoor and head away to the southwest, or in a more southerly direction I should say, that will start to work more in our favour. The total flight time from Bristol to Guernsey will be in the area of 20-25 minutes, I imagine. I guess I should know, I could have checked this on the PFPX when I planned it, but certainly when I've practiced this route before, that seems to be about right, 20 to 25 minutes. The cyan line that we can see moving on the display here is indicative of our top of climb. And so we're at the top of climb, and I'm going to go and check on the MCDU to enter in the details for the approach into Guernsey. Before we do that, let me just go and activate the radio and listen in to the ATIS from Guernsey.
Echo Golf Juliet Bravo Airport information Golf 0950 Zulu weather wind 282 at 12 visibility 4 sky condition few clouds at 900 ceiling 1400 broken ceiling 2200 broken light rain temperature 6 dew point 5 QNH 0992 advise on initial contact you have information Golf Echo Golf Juliet Bravo Airport.
So they've got it a bit cloudy there, and pressure over Guernsey is pretty low as well. So let's enter in the information into our MCDU for our approach. QNH was 0992, temperature 6 degrees, wind 282 at 12 knots, transition altitude 5,000 feet, and I'll set the radio to 200. That's all good, that's ready to go. We'll leave that there and we won't activate this until later. Only 30 miles then before the start of the descent, even though we're still over Devon. Okay, initiate descent it says. I'm going to key in 2,000 feet, which is the altitude, oops, I'm going the wrong way, for our initial approach fix.
Initiating descent.
And push that to hand over control to the Airbus to manage the descent. In fact, if we take a look at this plan here on the navigation display, you can see the approach as we come down, then turn towards the NDB or the VOR. I'm not sure which of the two it is, but either or, and then describe a nice slow wide arc here before coming straight to do a straight in landing. This phase here is incredibly short and we need to be on the ball for that. with regards to both speed and setting the approach button at the appropriate time.
Passing 10,000 feet.
Lights on.
On.
So I'm being asked to provide more drag for the aircraft so that it can slow down and reduce altitude at the same time. You can see down here the little hollow magenta circle. We are significantly above the glide path for the descent that we should be on. So I've deployed the speed brake, that should help. And as advertised, or as expected when we dialed into ATIS, a lot of cloud cover over the top of Guernsey at the moment. Clouds provided courtesy of Aerosoft Clouds. And we're onto the glide slope now, so I'm going to release the speed brake and hopefully we'll be able to hold that now at the correct speed and rate of descent.
Approach checklist.
Beacon status.
Checked.
Sliding tables.
Stowed.
Stowed. Cabin signs.
Checked.
Nav accuracy.
Checked.
Bearer reference.
Standard.
Checklist complete.
Flight attendants, prepare for landing.
Transition altitude.
Barrow reference set and cross-checked. 992.
992. Checked.
And switching from standard to local barometric pressure shows that actually we're well below the height that we should be at this stage, as indicated by this magenta circle now appearing at the top of the altitudes tape. So I need to activate the approach phase, which has actually is happened automatically here, so I don't need to do that now. And we're slowing down to come down to the green dot speed, at which stage we should be deploying flaps 1. I'm loath to use a speed brake here because we're already well below where we should be for our descent, and the aircraft is slowing down quite successfully to green dot speed at the moment, so we'll just let that be.
Flaps 1.
Speed check. Flaps 1.
The wind 282 at 12 knots, and we're landing on runway 27, so we'll have a slight crosswind. Not too bad though, hopefully it'll be okay. Just make out some of Guernsey. And it's gone again. Shame that the weather is so overcast. It's a really nice piece of scenery, especially as you approach and witness the coastline and so on. It's extremely well done, but I'm sure I'll have the chance to take off or fly into it again in a subsequent video, and perhaps we can enjoy the aesthetic quality of the scenery at that stage. Okay, everything's looking good at the moment. We're down to about the S speed. 2,500. We're getting closer now to the projected descent path. 2,000 feet is what we need to be at as we come around the curve here, and then we're almost straight into the approach and landing. Compared to the video I did yesterday when we did the approach and landing into KDEN Denver, where the whole approach phase was effectively a straight line for about 30 miles before landing. This is back to Europe with a bump, almost literally, as we have our much shorter approach phases to come into land, which of course is much more efficient in terms of fuel.
Flaps 2.
Speed check, flaps 2.
Gear down.
Gear down.
So there's about 7 miles to run now to touchdown.
Flaps 3.
Speed check, flaps 3.
Flaps full.
Speed check, flaps full.
I want to try and be sure to
Landing
capture the
checklist.
localizer before we pass through the glide
Landing
slope.
gear,
Down and locked. 3 greens.
ground spoilers,
Checked and armed.
water brakes,
Medium.
exterior
Because
lights,
we're in the middle of the
On.
checklist,
go around
it's quite
altitude,
likely we won't get a call that localizer is alive.
landing memo,
We'll need to do the capture ourselves, which
Checked
is exactly
no
what I've
blue.
just done.
checklist complete. Localizer alive. Localizer captured.
A bit lumpy on our approach here. When I'd flown this a couple of times before, I've noticed that although the glide slope is properly indicated, for some reason we seem to fly a little below it, which means as we get closer to the runway, can leave you wondering whether or not there is sufficient altitude for you to be able to land safely. You have, and you can. It's still a point of concern every time I've done it, though. You can start to get a feeling as well for the quality of the scenery here as we approach. Unlike the Bristol scenery, the guys who made the scenery here for Guernsey have incorporated weather features. So, as you can see, full snow across Guernsey in today's weather. I don't think that matches real life, incidentally. It just matches flight sim life.
One thousand.
As you can see, we appear to be below the glide slope, and yet the PAPI was indicating that all is well.
500. 400.
Frame rate is certainly taking a staggering hit here.
300. 100 above. 200 minimum.
Autopilot off. Continue.
One hundred, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20. Retard. 5.
Ground
And
spoilers.
safely down. The right rudder there, I think.
70 knots.
Manual brakes.
Auto brakes off.
Okay, that's better. I think we can exit the runway to the left now.
APU on.
After landing checklist.
Exterior lights.
Checked.
Ground spoilers.
Set off.
Engine mode selector.
Checked normal.
Flaps.
Checked retracted.
I really am going to have to work
Check
on this
standby.
rudder pedal control. I've
Checked.
APU.
On.
tried all manner of things so far, but still find it to be a significant challenge. I notice at the moment we're doing 30 knots. Slow that down a bit, I'm sure it doesn't help. Crikey. Arrest this pilot, he's obviously been on some intoxicating liquor overnight. Okay, let's take Bay 1, I think. Put an end to this taxiing misery. And we're down. And the engine's off, so there we are, safely down,
And the
and
parking
completes the
checklist.
trip from Bristol, Echo Golf Golf Delta, to Guernsey, Echo
Parking
Golf
brake and
Juliet Bravo.